In a must-win game to stay close to the top of the league, this game would not only be a snooze fest versus Juventus, but an absolute shambolic performance. Gabi returned to the starting lineup coming back from his injury. Loftus-Cheek would be playing in that attacking mid role, and Yunus Musah would be in that right mid spot, similarly to what he was playing versus Real Madrid. And I think one of the main takeaways of this game was Milan's lack of presence in the attacking phase. And we clearly saw this with Loftus-Cheek being in that attacking mid role. And whenever he plays in this role, he ghosts the game. I don't even think Loftus-Cheek had a first touch on the ball until the last 5 minutes of the first half. And he's clearly not good enough to play in this team. Loftus-Cheek is one of the most obvious box-to-box players, but Fonseca insists that he plays in this attacking mid role when, for me, characteristics of this position are playing with your back to goal and playing on the half turn. And clearly Loftus-Cheek doesn't do any of these things at all, and there's just not a part of his game. And when we saw Pulisic come in, he did more in 3 minutes than Loftus-Cheek did in 70. And with a crippled Juventus team, with all the injuries that they have, Fonseca played it safe, right? We saw Pulisic was injured, so why bench Chukwueze? He insisted on having Yunus Musah on that right mid spot to definitely give some defensive insurance to Emerson, which we'll get onto later. But Fonseca, after the game, he said, and I quote, "It wasn't a good game. It was boring, too tactical, and the teams didn't take risks to attack better." My guy, you're the coach. You're the guy that is supposed to put Milan in the driving position to score goals. And you do so by benching Chukwueze, probably at the time with Pulisic being injured, one of our most attacking threats on the right-hand side, and you benched him. He played it safe, Fonseca, when this Juventus team is riddled with injuries. They had no strikers on the pitch. They had McKennie and Koopmeiners at striker. So for me, why isn't Chukwueze being utilized when Pulisic is clearly out injured? It would have definitely given us a lot more of a license to go forward. And another thing, the mismanagement of how Yunus Musah is being used. Why not put Yunus Musah right next to Fofana to give not only a defensive presence in the midfield, but also to give the license for Tijani Reinders to go forward, to be that creative outlet in that attacking mid role? The lack of attacking presence that Milan had in this game because Fonseca wanted to play it safe was absolutely horrendous. And speaking of Yunus Musah being on that right mid spot, yes, he is a great ball-winning midfielder, so I don't know why he's kind of being hindered to play on that right mid spot to give Emerson a little bit of insurance to defend. And going on Emerson, defensively, we were great. I felt like we were nullifying the attack of Juventus, except for Emerson. Emerson was the leaking hole in this defense because you saw every single time. And when I was watching the game with my compadre, I mentioned, look how every time Juventus go on the attack, it's always through Emerson. You always saw Kenan Yildiz attack that right-hand side because of how weak Emerson is. There were so many times where Emerson just gave him space to run into instead of staying compact and tight on Yildiz. It's completely unacceptable, and you're questioning the management on why Emerson was signed, and not for a cheap fee either. We paid a good chunk of change for Emerson. So why on earth did this management, and what did they even see in a player like Emerson? Don't get me wrong, I was giving him the benefit of the doubt because I wanted to give him time and I wanted to really support Emerson. But when you see constant performances and poor showings of defensive awareness, like in this game versus Juventus and constant other games, it's hard to back a player like this, to be completely honest. And just when it felt like both teams were gaining momentum, it was killed due to the lack of willingness to go forward. Of course, Juventus have their own reason because they literally had no strikers on the pitch other than when Weah came in. But from a Milan perspective, why aren't these players taking shots on goal? Why aren't we testing Di Gregorio on this goal? It was very frustrating because constantly, time and time again, we were passing back, playing vertical style, and we were crossing the ball and never really a threat at all to Di Gregorio. And to be completely honest, there wasn't really much to take away from this game. and fans are starting to grow impatient with Fonseca. And with all these inconsistent results, you ask, what is this team's identity, and has the Milan season objective changed? So let's address the first question. What is this team's identity? To be completely honest, with all these inconsistent results, we play different every single game, right? Against Real Madrid, we were a lot more compact and we played on the counterattack, and we played damn near the perfect game versus Real Madrid, and same thing with Inter. So this team's identity in the beginning of the season, Fonseca made an emphasis on this number 10 position and how it was so important, and it's important to play out of the press. And we're not even seeing any of those patterns of play being introduced in this current team. And has the Milan season objective changed? I think it has, because you look at the top half of the table, right? You look at first through fourth. Napoli, at the time of recording, just won their game versus Roma. Inter won against Hellas Verona in a dominant fashion. Fiorentina even won, and Atalanta as well are up there too. So you're asking the gap of first through fourth, and then you look at us in seventh place. The season objective before was try to win the title, and Fonseca keeps insisting that this is still the main objective of the season. The Scudetto is gone. We're not going to win the league. It's damn near impossible, I feel like, especially because of how inconsistent we are. The new season objective is to get top 4. And of course, there are so many people hinting that, this management was always going to plan for top 4. But now it's more clear than ever that this is now the season objective, to get at least 4th place to get into Champions League. And of course, we'll see how long Fiorentina can kind of keep this good run of form, because there's 7 games, all wins, which is miraculous to completely say they've turned it around, Fiorentina. And Atalanta as well are still a top club. They're in 2nd place at the moment. So you look at all this and you're asking questions on how is Milan going to get in this position. And to be completely honest, it starts with the coach. I think, and going on to this next game with the Champions League, if we do not grab 3 points against Slovan Bratislava, Fonseca has to go. Fonseca has to be sacked if we do not grab maximum points against the bottom of the table team in the Champions League, because we can't keep going into every game really not knowing how we're going to play, what system are we going to play, who's going to be in the lineup. Every single game we've played, it's been a different lineup. Where's the consistencies? There's no consistencies in this team going forward. To be completely honest, with tops and flops, I don't even want to do it because of how boring and how dead this game was. There really was no standouts other than maybe you could say Leao. So I guess he'll be the top of the game because he was really the only one trying to get something going, trying to do something at least. I guess I'll say top for this game is going to be Leao, and flop, it's between 2 players. It's between Emerson and Loftus-Cheek. I'm going to give Emerson a break just because we did keep a clean sheet and we didn't concede any goals. So I'm going to say Loftus-Cheek on this one. And it sucks because Loftus-Cheek, we know what he can do well, and Fonseca insists on playing Loftus-Cheek in a position where he won't excel in. And like I said earlier in the video, an attacking mid has to have the traits of playing with your back to goal and playing with on the half turn. And clearly Loftus-Cheek doesn't have those abilities to do so. So let's preview our next game in the Champions League. Like I said, it is against Slovan Bratislava, and this has to be a must-win game. Against the bottom of the table team in the Champions League, loads of other teams have taken points away from them, and for us, it has to be no different. And like I said, if Fonseca does, and I'm going to say, if Fonseca does not grab 3 points against Slovan Bratislava, he has to be sacked, because there is no excuse that this Milan team doesn't put 3 past the bottom of the table team in the Champions League. This might seem harsh, but this is the reality of where Milan sits now. We have to grab 3 points in this game, because at this point, I feel like the only thing going for us in this season right now is the Champions League. We just have to get to the next round of the Champions League, and we just have to roll our dice and see how far we can go, especially with how the league table is going to be. Champions League is the only thing that we can really salvage of this season. So A must win has to be versus Slovan Bratislava. I'm going to predict a 2-0. I think we're going to keep a clean sheet. We're also in the San Siro. It's a Champions League night. So, of course, we got the magic of the stadium. But even then, I still have my question marks with this team because of how inconsistent we are. If we couldn't even beat Cagliari, I'm going to question our ability to play against Slovan Bratislava. I think that'll do it for this episode, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think about the Juventus game in the comment section below. Get involved. And also, what do you guys think about our Champions League chances versus Slovan Bratislava? So, guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Ciao, ragazzi.